so I usually follow the jaw, right? So follow that mandible line up. And there's the angle right there. You feel that, Greg?
Yes.
Yep. Okay, so I'm gonna come slightly posterior to that angle, right approximately at the level of C1, which is why why they call it a C1, because it's up pretty high. You do have other points that come down the anterior column of the cervical spine, but your point pressure, as much as everyone wants it to be medial, is actually posterior. I would say that I find my points more frequently kind of a combo of posterior medial. So I'm going down and in, kind of at a downward diagonal, this direction to find the point, okay? So once I find the angle of that mandible, and I come slightly posterior, make sure I'm kind of, 3 centimeters superior to the mandibular angle, approach posterior. For me, Greg, and you may not even feel it, but I can get in much deeper here, but over here it's much more, it's tighter. You may not be tender
I
right there.
can't tell.
Yeah, but it's definitely tighter right into here. So
Oh, yeah,
almost
I
like
feel
where
it.
the SCM sort of comes in. This, not so much. This, yes, right there.
Yeah, that's tender.
So we're gonna call it the left, okay? And so, no flexion or extension on this one because the point is so lateral. So you don't have to worry about moving the head up or moving it down. Although some people do better with flexion, some people do better with extension. You just need to play around a bit. And then after that, you're gonna side bend and rotate away markedly, right? So side bend away, ever so slightly. That's the challenge with the string counterstring courses, that everything is slightly or markedly. It's really hard to remember all that. Even I have to read sometimes to make sure I'm off on it. Yep. So. So now I'm gonna rotate him. And if we're talking markedly, we're talking markedly. Okay? So this is Greg, he can do this, but if you had a patient with an acute neck strain, you would maybe go that much and that much, and that would be there markedly, and then you would check the point. Okay. So for me, if I'm doing Greg, like I would do in my clinic, actually I feel like it's tissue tension, maybe from some tightness in your upper cervicals here. Okay, I'm gonna follow you a little bit. You can do what Naomi was doing, and you can direct the pressure here. Do you feel me pushing on the point at all?
No.
Okay, good. Okay, I have to think about how I do it too. I'm showing you guys. So I think I direct a fair amount of pressure with the palm of my hand up here on the left-hand side to create a little fulcrum for a side bend and rotation. Okay. And like I said before, sometimes it can take a little while, 10, 15 seconds before you kind of feel like you kind of hit a point where you feel the least amount of tissue tension. You didn't really have a tender point, but for me, it's not really letting go. So when this happens for me, when I don't really feel like it lets go, two things come to mind. One, I don't have the right point, because you could have more than one point. I need to release a different point before I actually do this point. And two, you may have something going on in the cervical spine itself, which is causing the increased tension over here, not the other way around. So I would actually go to C1 and C2 spinous processes and see if he has a tender point there. Okay, but this is the position for it. Okay? So, side bend and rotate a lot. Okay?
This is AC1.
AC1.
Okay.
Yep, AC1. And I'm going to have you do the next one, which is AC7. I had to think about it for a second. Okay? So it's not up there because I haven't advanced the screen. I wish I had a little clicker that go from here. Okay, so AC7, you're going to come down to the clavicle. And what you want to do is find the very end of the clavicle, right, there's a point right there, which is C8, which you're gonna do as well. So you can do both kind of at the same time here, but what you're looking to do is find the very end of the clavicle and come in about an inch. And then your pressure in this one is gonna be superior down towards the feet. So again, I use my thumbs often to find the tender point, and I'll switch my hands when I actually do the tender point treatment, so I'm not doing my thumbs, okay? So again, here's the very end, and you can all kind of find the very end of your clavicle. That's gonna be C8, you'll do that one. But AC7 is gonna be just 1 inch from the end of the medial end of the clavicle, okay? Right about, I would call it an SCM point, because you're putting them in a position for the SCM. And this is often a good one just because the seatbelt that crosses people's chest and their head moves forward like that gives them more stability here, but one side moves further without the stability.
I'm curious so here's the medial end of the clavicle, it's
1 inch.
superior?
No.
Or which way?
1 inch in. So
1
right
inch
here.
laterally?
Laterally, thank you.
Okay.
Laterally, yes.
Okay.
So here. Okay, so this is the end, and then right about here.
So like.
Yes,
I can't, does
uh-huh,
that look like
uh-huh.
an inch? Okay.
Yes,
I
yes,
can't see it
yes.
myself, but,
Uh-huh.
okay.
You don't have much, Craig. A little bit. I keep coming back to this side, but this side's up a little bit too. You have a
So
little bit
you're
of both.
on the muscle.
I'm gonna go left side.
right?
Yeah, I'm on the SCM.
Yes, okay.
Okay, so once you have the side that you're gonna do it on, we're gonna treat it by bringing them up into a fair amount of flexion, okay? Side bend toward, what does the SCM do?
Side bend.
Side bend and rotates away, right? So this type of position right here. I wouldn't hold his head like this. For me, I would bring him up, pillow. Something kind of right in there. Side bend toward and rotate away. So, side bend toward, rotate away. Okay, we are looking with a furrowed brow, Morgan.
Yeah.
Okay, side bend toward, rotate away. Sorry, Greg, I'm being kind of manhandling your head.
That's okay.
The angle makes
Right.
more sense from this angle.
Like that.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm
Side
all
bend
like
Toward,
monopolizing.
rotate away.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like you lose the
Freaking
side
left.
bend, but doesn't matter.
Mhm.
You could,
So
but you'll
left to
work it
left,
back
and
into
then-
it.
Mm.
Yes.
You got it.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. And we're gonna come back to AC8, you're just gonna work your way down, okay? So AC8, yes. So tell me what the treatment says, Morgan.
Slight flexion, marked rotation away, side bend away. Slight flexion, marked rotation away, and just a normal side bend away.
Basically,
Just like that,
yes.
yeah. Okay.
Pulling your head up, Greg.
Slight flexion, rotation away, side
Okay. So let me tell you,
and that's at the end.
reading those are kind of confusing, okay? About what goes markedly, what goes little, what goes little flexion, little extension. I will tell you in general, and this is kind of a general blanket statement, if the point is treated in the front of the body, it's inflection. That's your first thing, and especially if it's a midline. So if you find a tender point anywhere around the anterior cervicals, even if you're not 100% sure what you're on, but you find a tender point around the anterior cervicals and up around this area right there that we were just at, the mandible, AC1. Anything in there, you're gonna treat in some type of flexion, okay? Because this point was so lateral to the head, there wasn't a lot of flexion or extension. But if you accidentally did a little flexion, that's okay, as long as you remember how to do the side bent and rotate away position, okay? When we come down here, because this seemed to connect more with the SCM, you think about putting them into the position of that. Now, the AC8 is much more central, so just like the back, you go into side bent and rotate away. So generally, your cervical, anterior cervical points are flexed, side bent, and rotated away, and your posterior points are extended, side bent, and rotated away. Even if you're like a little bit markedly, little this, little that, just remember, anterior points in the cervical spine are generally treated here, here, and here, if this tender point is on this side. And then the other direction would be tipped back, and it would be side bent and rotated away. Okay? Slowly, you guys are starting to get a little bit of it, slowly but surely, okay? So let's go do AC1, AC7, AC8.